Welcome again. In this lesson, we'll break down key earned value management metrics, including schedule variance, where we answer, are we on schedule, ahead or behind? Our schedule performance index, which tells us how efficiently we are progressing. The cost variance, which again helps us to determine are we over budget or under budget. And our cost performance index, which tells us how well we are controlling costs. Let's get to it. As mentioned earlier, we are discussing earned value management. Earned value management helps us to determine how we are performing in our project. A project performance measurement technique integrating scope, schedule, and cost. And it provides quantitative data that we use to help to track the health of the project. It's important because it helps us to identify project issues, how we are doing on cost and schedule. It helps us to identify these things early on in the project. And it provides objective comparison of progress versus plans, how we are doing on actual versus our baseline. Some of the key components of earned value management include planned value, earned value, actual costs. We have variances, which are your cost variance and schedule variance. And there are some indices that we calculate, your cost performance index and your schedule performance index. These are some of the things that we'll be looking at in this session. So let's get to first our core EVM metrics. The core EVM metrics include your planned value, and the planned value is the authorized budget as assigned to scheduled work. So the budget that we authorize for the project. And the formula that we use for the planned value is the percentage of work plan that is complete multiplied by your budget at completion. Our budget at completion, what we budgeted, multiplied by the percentage of whatever work has been completed, will give us our planned value at that point in time. We have earned value, which is the actual work that we have performed, the value of the actual work that we have performed. And the formula here is earned value, again, is the percentage of actual work completed multiplied by our budget at completion. We have the actual cost, which is the total cost incurred for work performed. So this is the actual cost of work incurred for the work that is performed. We have our budget at completion, which is the total project budget. And the role here is the basis for calculating your variances and your forecasting. Schedule metrics, we have our schedule variance. Our schedule variance, we said, is given by the formula the earned value minus the planned value. That is the formula that we use for calculating your schedule variance. How do we interpret the result? A schedule variance greater than 0 indicates that we are ahead of schedule. A schedule variance less than 0 tells us that we are behind schedule, and a schedule variance equal to 0 says that we are on schedule. We have our schedule performance index, and the schedule performance index is given by the formula earned value divided by the planned value. And how do we interpret the result? SPI that is greater than 1 means that we are efficiently scheduling. SPI that is less than 1 indicates that our scheduling is inefficient. We are behind schedule somewhat. We are not. And our SPI equal to 1 indicates that we are on track. What I can take from these both metrics is that if it is positive, if it is greater than 0, greater than 1, then we are doing well. If it is negative, less than 0, less than 1, then we are not doing too well. And if it is equal to 0, then we are on schedule. Let's take a look at an actual example of a schedule variance calculation. We have a problem here. The problem says that a project has a total budgeted cost of $100,000. The project was planned to be 50% complete after 2 months. However, after 2 months, the project is actually only 30% complete. The actual cost incurred so far is $35,000. So we want you to calculate the following. We want you to calculate the planned value for the project after 2 months, calculate the earned value for the project after 2 months. We want you to calculate the schedule variance, the Schedule Performance Index, and we want you to interpret the results of the Schedule Variance and the Schedule Performance Index. So let's have a look at the solution. This is the given information that we have. The budget at completion is $100,000, and that we got from the information in the question. The planned completion at 2 months was supposed to be 50% complete. However, at 2 months, we actually had 30% complete. And the actual cost that we incurred at 2 months was $35,000. We can take a quick glance back at the question just to verify all of this. So our budget at completion, 100,000. Our planned rate of completion after 2 months was supposed to be 50% complete. Our actual completion after 2 months was only 30% complete. And the actual cost incurred so far is $35,000. So that is what is stated in the question. Let's look at the solution. We ask you to calculate the planned value. The planned value is given by the budget at completion multiplied by planned percentage completed. Now that is given by 100,000 multiplied by 50%, and therefore we get $50,000. So our planned value is $50,000. Our earned value is given by our budget at complete multiplied by the actual percentage complete, which is given by $100,000 multiplied by 30%, which gives us our $30,000. Let's continue. Schedule variance is given by the SV is equal to EV minus PV. Our EV we just calculated to be 30,000 and our PV we just calculated to be 50,000. So therefore 30,000 minus 50,000 we get negative $20,000. Now this negative value here is not a good sign, it's not a good indication. Now let's look at the SPI. The SPI is given by the formula EV divided by PV. And our SPI therefore is 30,000 divided by 50,000, we get an SPI value of 0.6. Again, this value of 0.6 is not a good indication at all. Let's look at the interpretation of the result. The schedule variance we got here was negative 20,000. The negative SV indicates that the project is behind schedule. What this means is that the project has produced $20,000 less value than was planned at this point. Now, the Schedule Performance Index, the SPI, we got is 0.6. The SPI of 0.6 means that the project is progressing at only 60% of the planned rate. That means that for every dollar of work that we plan to be completed, only 0.6 of a dollar or 60 cents worth of work has actually been completed. So overall, these metrics show that the project is significantly behind schedule after the first 2 months, and corrective action should be considered to get the project back on track. So this is how we use the information that we get from our SV and our SPI calculations. It gives us an indication as to whether or not we are on schedule or whether or not we are behind schedule. How do we interpret the results? Positive SV ahead of schedule. Negative SV behind schedule. 0 SV on schedule. So if SV is equal to 0, it is on schedule. The key takeaway, positive is good, negative indicate delays. So that is what we can interpret from our schedule variance track. We have the cost performance metrics and the cost variance, which is given by the formula EV minus AC, where AC is our actual cost and EV is our earned value. And the CV, if it is greater than 0, it tells us that we are under budget. If our CV is less than 0, then it says that we are over budget. Again, positive is good, negative is bad. And if it is equal to 0, we are on budget. Our cost performance index is a measure of how cost efficient the allocated resources are in the budget. And this is calculated by the formula. Our cost performance index is equal to our earned value divided by actual cost, and a CPI that is greater than 1 indicates that we are cost efficient. A CPI that is less than 1 indicates that we are cost inefficient, and a CPI that is equal to 1 indicates that we are on budget. We would look at some cost variance calculations to see how we calculate the cost variance and how we interpret the results. We have a question, so let's get to it and see what it is. We have a question here, and the question reads, a construction project is budgeted to cost $250,000 and to take 10 months to complete. After 5 months, the project is 40% complete. The actual cost incurred so far is $120,000. Assume the project was planned to progress linearly over its 10-month duration. What we are saying here is that we want you to assume that you're going to incur costs in a linear manner over the 10-month period, or your costs would be incurred in equal measure as the project progresses. We ask you to calculate the following. You have your cost variance, your cost performance index, and we ask you to interpret the results of the calculation. So we want you to calculate the cost variance, cost performance index, and to interpret the results. Let's have a look. Now we're going to start by calculating the planned value. Now in this particular question, we will not need the planned value, but we're going to calculate it just to show you how it's done. So the planned value is the budgeted cost of work scheduled to be done. That is what it is. And it is given by the formula PV is equal to the budgeted cost divided by the total duration multiplied by the time that has elapsed so far in this particular situation. We could have told you that 40% or 30% of the planned work has been completed, and therefore we would have been able to calculate the planned value in a different way. But in this case, we told you that the project is progressing in a linear manner, so we're going to calculate it this way. So we have 250,000 divided by the 10 months multiplied by 5, and that gives you $125,000 for your planned value. As I said before, we will not be using this, but I just thought to include it here. Next, we calculate our earned value. The earned value, this is the budgeted cost of work actually completed. And here the earned value is equal to the percentage complete multiplied by the budgeted cost. In this case, it is the 40% of the work that has been completed multiplied by the $250,000, which gives you $100,000. The actual cost was given as $120,000, and that was given in the question. We told that we incurred $120,000 in cost. The cost variance is the difference between the earned value and the actual cost, right? And it's given by the formula EV minus AC. In this case, it is $100,000, and you subtract from that your $120,000, you get minus $20,000. And how do we interpret this? The cost variance, we get a negative cost variance, which is not a good sign, indicates that the project is over budget. So the actual cost is $20,000 more than what was planned for the work completed. That is how we interpret this calculation. So let's move on. We also calculate, and the cost performance index, this is a measure of the efficiency of spending on the project. The cost performance index in this case is given by the formula EV divided by AC. And in this case, we calculated our EV to be $100,000, and the AC we were told in the question is $120,000. So we get a CPI value of 0.83. So how do we interpret this? The CPI of 0.83 indicates that the project is not performing well in terms of cost. It is costing more than planned to complete the work. So what this is indicating to us. So the 0.83, remember we said that if you wanted to get a good CPI, it must be greater than 1. In this case, we didn't get a value that is greater than 1. We got a value that is less than 1. So this is how we interpret these calculations. In this particular question, we had, let's just go back one, we had a cost variance of minus $20,000, which indicates that the project is over budget by $20,000, and we have a CPI value of 0.83, which indicates that the project is not performing well in terms of cost. What I would like to say here is that in order for you to really understand these calculations, you have to practice a few of them. Now, there are questions in the course that would require you to do these calculations, but in addition to these questions, I would strongly advise that you find some practice quizzes and so forth with these calculation questions and really ensure that you do a few of them so that you become familiar with the calculations and especially the formula. I just want to remind you again, I do not believe that the PMI, they provide you with the formulas. So it would be good for you to know the formulas before you head into the exam. So that is my advice to you where this is concerned. Again, practice the questions to make sure that you're familiar with the different types of questions and the different formulas. Click the link in the video description below to enroll in the Ultimate CAPM Exam Prep Course on Udemy. You will get full-length practice exams, video lessons, downloadable resources, and everything you need to pass the CAPM exam with confidence. Plus a special discount if you use the link. This discount is only available for a limited time, so you must act soon.